Hi there, and welcome back to Season 3 of SciBurst, a podcast all about science, popular culture, and entertainment. This podcast is for everyone, no matter if you're a physiotherapist, an art curator, or a landscape gardener. We are your host, Ella.
And Isabel, two science communicators and Solarpunk enthusiasts, taking this podcast on a journey into hopeful futures. This episode, greenwashing. Ooh. What is it? And where did the phrase come from? What does it have to do with solarpunk, or maybe not being solarpunk? And how do we address it?
Those are some really good questions, and I'm really excited for this episode. But before we dive into that, it's really important to us that we acknowledge that this episode of SciBurst is being recorded on Ngunnawal and Ngambri country. Dowra Nuna, Dowra Nunawal, Yangu, Nani Manyin, Duni Manyin, Nunawal Wari, Dowwa Wari, Dindi, One Girilijin Yin. This is Ngunnawal country. Today we are all meeting together in Ngunnawal country. We acknowledge and pay our respects to the elders. And we extend those respects to all the traditional custodians of all the lands that you might be listening to this episode of SciBurst on today. So, Isabel, you asked so many good questions at the top of this episode about what even is greenwashing and how did it come about. So, like all our podcasts, we're going to come at you in 3 sections with this one. And we're going to start off talking about what is greenwashing and giving some context kind of behind that. So a short summary, and then we're going to dive into some more. Greenwashing is a really kind of deceptive act.
Yeah. And
it's the act of performing, marketing, and adding emphasis to an item or whole company's sustainable impact. So it can take so many forms. It can be in the form of vagaries about materials and operations. It can be in the form of overemphasis on one attribute while ignoring everything else.
Yeah.
It can be about making sustainable claims without any evidence to back up those claims. And it can also be about hijacking sustainable terms, aesthetics, and motivations. So there are a few sub-flavors, I guess you could say, of greenwashing, such as eco-consumerism and green consumerism. But essentially, greenwashing is when a company lies about their eco-consciousness, their environmental practices, and their sustainable actions. And they lie to make money and even sometimes evade legal consequences.
Of course. I saw in one of the videos you sent me, Ella, that someone referred to greenwashing as gaslighting in sustainability.
Yeah, that's so accurate, unfortunately.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good way of sort of summarizing like a shorthand for what it is. Interestingly too, greenwashing is not a new thing. You might think that this is something that's kind of relatively recent, as people are more aware about needing to take climate action and all of that.
But it's not?
No. So the term greenwashing gained prominence in the 1980s to describe the practice of making overblown claims of sustainability. And then it escalated again, the term, in the 2000s. And again, more recently, to meet consumer demands for greener products and services. So something also interesting is that early greenwashing concepts, without using the phrase, it was referred to as something else back then.
But the same idea.
Yeah, the premise of it can also be traced back to the 1960s.
Okay.
When the environmental movement gained more momentum and companies sought out a greener image through advertising. And back then, some executives referred to it as eco-pornography.
Okay. Unnecessary.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this whole thing is kind of unnecessary.
Yeah. Well, yes.
And I guess that's kind of the problem with it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when greenwashing, basically an organization will often spend significantly more resources on green advertising rather than environmentally sound practices or actually taking any action.
Why take action when you can spend money to look like you take action?
Yeah.
Disgusting.
So the whole thing, basically a PR stunt.
Yeah.
Companies will greenwash to improve public opinions of their brands, persuade customers that they are environmentally friendly and sustainable when they're actually not at all, and instead capitalize on our environmental guilt in a similar way to other vague labeling like this product is cruelty-free or ethical.
Well, they're actually capitalizing not only on our environmental guilt, but oftentimes they're capitalizing on the consumers trying to do better, and they're like hijacking your motivation to do better.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Just because they can, which is really disappointing.
It's so frustrating.
Oh,
stop doing it.
Stop it.
So these companies, through greenwashing, are trying to generate something called the halo effect.
Okay, tell me more about this.
Which is a type of cognitive bias where someone's first impression of a company or product influences their perceptions of the company's other attributes. So a positive first impression, labeling like environmentally friendly or sustainable or this product is biodegradable, can create a positive bias and an assumption or overestimation of other positive qualities, and helps cover up unsustainable agendas and policies in corporations.
Ugh. And you know what? That even continues down to the individual product level. So when a really established brand, say like a brand leader or a household name, comes out with an eco line, which is, you know, they've got their regular products, but they're like, hey, let's do something for the sustainable girlies. This is also that type of halo effect coming into play.
Yeah.
So basically, this product is normally incredibly similar to their previous ones because normally they don't change up their manufacturing processes that much. And for many items, the production and the manufacturing is the most emission heavy or unsustainable part of the product. And basically they create one version of their product which is supposed to be better or more sustainable than the others. And they're also on the product level hoping for a halo effect of, oh, well, their regular product can't be too bad if it's similar to the environmental one. But actually it's probably the other way around, where the environmental greenwash product probably isn't that good. It's kind of like a weird sort of virtue signaling.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, related to the environment.
Yeah. Completely backwards. And yet it's, you know, they're using like all these psychology hacks basically to try swindle us as consumers who are trying to do the right or the better thing for the planet.
Yeah, I know. Annoying. And it's done a big bad.
It has. It is a big bad.
It just is in general bad. So we now know that according to critics, because of greenwashing, people are now very skeptical of all green claims and groups who are actually taking action. We don't know what's a valid claim anymore and what's not. So we just disregard all of it because it's, I mean, how can you tell now if
it's really tricky?
Yeah.
And honestly, that's not the consumer's fault, even though we're often the ones, particularly when it comes to PR marketing, who wears the blame for this.
And unfortunately, this has undermined public trust, diminished the power of people to truly drive companies towards greener and sustainable change, and even negatively impacted public health.
Okay, I want to hear more, but I also don't want to hear more.
Yeah, I've got an example. So products like cleaning products, cosmetic products, and children's products, which are among the most common in the household, are particularly prone to greenwashing. And a quote from a consulted researcher from a paper in the Journal of Environmental Health Perspectives says this: people are attempting to buy cleaning chemicals that have reduced environmental and health impacts, But manufacturers are using greenwashing to either confuse or mislead them. People aren't really well equipped to navigate the eco-babble, and so they end up buying products that don't have the environmental or human health performances that they expect.
Yeah, and if you're buying these products, it's also, if the eco-babble is confusing to you, which it probably is for most people, including me, then you might not even know that it's bad or not doing what you expect it to, until perhaps you hear that company is involved in a lawsuit because of their misleading claims. Like,
yeah, exactly. Too late.
It could be years and years, which is really unfortunate.
Also, I really like the phrasing of eco-babble, like that play on techno-babble.
Yeah.
Make it about, environmental jargon. Yeah.
Yeah. And I wanted to jump onto that too, because you mentioned cleaning, cosmetic and children's products. But some other products that are really prone to greenwashing are food and fashion. Yes. And this eco-babble actually plays into a lot of that too.
Yeah.
So a lot of us will love to buy eggs that are potentially and hopefully a lot better for the chicken's living conditions than caged eggs. However, the term cage-free eggs, a lot of us have come to understand, doesn't fit with the assumption that these chickens aren't in a cage and they're living a luscious life outdoors, free range, free roaming. Oftentimes it means that those chickens aren't in a cage but are cooped up in a barn still. So you have like a whole spectrum of babble or wording around cage-free, barn-free, free range, outdoor free range that you have to be able to take in, listen to, think about, and then come to a solution amongst all that babble. Yeah,
it's so misleading. And it's like, how is the everyday person going to know?
Right? And then in researching this, I was thinking about in clothing, the terms vegan.
Yes.
And found out during research for this that bamboo rayon and recycled PET clothing, all of these terms pretty much are just used to say plastic in a different way. So vegan leather, plastic, like petroleum, fossil fuel based. Same with bamboo rayon. So sometimes they can advertise clothes or sheets or underwear as being made out of bamboo, but it's actually oftentimes the bamboo is maybe the starting thing, but so many other components are added in. Yeah. And rayon is a type of plastic. So if you see bamboo rayon, you might assume it's natural, but it's still a greenwash term.
Yeah, I can see how this can be particularly frustrating for people who are vegan as well, because a lot of people who are vegan, I have friends who are, do it for mainly environmental reasons nowadays. And if your product, like how do you distinguish between products?
How are these people supposed to navigate?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. And I've been swindled by that bamboo phrasing. I didn't realize till today that
I've actually never heard plastic. I've never heard the phrasing before. So.
Yeah, so bamboo, rayon, or sometimes even viscose or viscose.
Okay.
I'm not really sure how to say that word. Yeah, it can mean that they've started off with bamboo and they've added a whole bunch of things into the process that it's come in the form of essentially a plastic that you're putting very close to your body. And, there's a lot of concern right now about microplastics and they're everywhere. And somewhat because we've been greenwashed and there are other eco-babble terms used, so we don't even understand where all these plastics are from in our day-to-day lives, and they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a bit doom and gloom, but like I said, 3 parts. This is part 1 and it's
progressively gets better.
Yeah.
That's how we try to do it.
But while we're here, I wanted to talk about why does greenwashing suck for consumers? Because it does suck, and we can acknowledge that. And we can also acknowledge that and know that we're not the problem. And greenwashing is designed to kind of make the individual consumer the problem, which is devastating, but we should be able to push back on that. But yeah, some overall reasons why greenwashing sucks for us as consumers is, 1, it can deceive you into supporting a non-sustainable product over a more sustainable one.
Yes.
And you might not necessarily be able to distinguish between those.
Because it could be like something that's not even labeled anything around that, like, environmentally sustainable might actually be better than the one that's labeled. Like,
Yeah.
It's gotten to that point.
Yeah. a second reason is that greenwashing makes it harder to hold companies liable for their efforts and their lack of efforts. Because they're making those claims, you actually have to go a step further to disprove them, particularly in things such as class action lawsuits and similar legal cases. So that obfuscating works on that company level as well. And third, and this is the one that I'm most angry about, I think, is that it does make the consumer feel confused, and it makes us work harder to avoid deception. And additionally, it contributes to what the Harvard Business Review calls the intention-action gap. So this is a gap between what we want to do and the actions we take. So the HBR, Harvard Business Review, reports that there's almost a 40% gap between people who want to buy purpose-driven brands and those that can follow through. So these purpose-driven brands are ones specifically that should advocate for sustainability. So, you know, and that's a combination of many things, but one of them is definitely greenwashing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and greenwashing is like a really big umbrella term, and a lot fits into it and kind of mangling with it. And there's lots of what I like to refer to as similar sneakeries.
Yeah, I love that, sneakeries.
That are kind of players you might not think fits into this category, but they do. And one example that we've spoken about in a talk and that we're currently writing up in a paper that might come out this year as part of a special edition journal is the classic example of BP's carbon footprint campaign.
Yes.
So I'm sure you've heard of this, if even only vaguely, but it's definitely rippled out and had such a huge impact. And it's also been so separated from the company that started it. So it was started by a fossil fuel company, BP.
Yeah.
In 2004, and the carbon footprint campaign and calculator was launched to essentially distract people from the petrol's company overall global impact, and instead subtly, like for about 20 years, subtly shift that blame onto individuals.
Yeah. And
like I said, this started in 2004. You had heaps of people, you know, thinking about riding and walking to school rather than cars. That came up for me all throughout primary school, which was the years following this.
I was going to say, I remember being taught it in primary school, like, this is how you measure your carbon footprint. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. And we did this thing called Nude Food Tuesdays, where you weren't allowed to bring packaged food to school on a Tuesday.
No, didn't do that.
But you know what that was? It was putting the blame onto the individual. And oftentimes it would be like, all right, put your tiny teddies in a container. But what did they come from? Like packages.
Yeah.
So yeah, this had a huge impact for years, almost decades, without mainstream objection to it. People kind of like took it on and were trying to really be better at that individual level, and were also pointing fingers at other people saying, you need to be better at an individual level.
Yeah.
And finally, global media kind of pulls the curtains away from this in the 2020s, from what until then was thought to be a sustainable marketing campaign, and instead deemed it greenwashing. And for many mainstream articles, and this is how crazy it is. For many mainstream articles, it was the connection that during COVID, even though emissions from personal flights fell, we were still on the path of climate breakdown.
Right.
So the personal carbon footprint, you know, we could see a drop, but it wasn't significant. Yeah. So then we started to realize, oh, hey, these huge companies have been bamboozling us.
Yeah, they've tried to make it seem like, oh, it's every individual's fault for this, when in fact, most of it is them.
Yeah. And Mark Kaufman says that the distractions and bad actors such as big oil put things like this in our way so that we don't associate them with responsibility, so that we keep placing on other things, people, and ourselves. No. And we really saw that happen with this. And not everyone does recognize it as greenwashing, but it truly was. It was quite deceptive and misleading. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's actually similar situation in terms of like pushing the blame onto the individual and the consumer rather than the large corporation. A situation to the one referenced in a 1986 essay where the term greenwashing first appeared and was first
history
used.
Lesson. Let's go.
Yeah. So it's an essay written by a guy called Jay Westerveld, a New York environmentalist and ecologist who coined the term greenwashing in this essay. And it's basically about the hotel industry's practice of placing notices in bedrooms promoting the reuse of towels to, quote unquote, save the environment. I'm sure we've all seen notices like that in our hotel rooms. Yeah. So Westerveld noted that these hotels often made little or no effort themselves in terms of reducing energy waste, though towel reuse saved them laundry costs. So it's for their own benefit, basically, and concluded that the fundamental objective was most frequently increased profit, not reducing environmental impact. So this is clearly, like I said, another case of the corporation shifting the blame on the responsibility onto the individual. And Westerveld labelled this and other supposed environmentally conscious acts as greenwashing, and the phrase was born.
And that's a really classic component that I think we should, worth pointing out again, is that greenwashing is to take advantage and profit from your intentions to do good.
Yeah.
It is greedy.
It's very manipulative too.
Yeah. Okay, I think I've had enough of this section. I want to move on. Let's talk some more examples of greenwashing.
Yeah.
And particularly when something is, trying to perform or claim that it might be Solarpunk, but it isn't. So let's start to bring in some more positivity with Solarpunk. In this section, because I've kind of had enough of discussing. This part.
I hate to break it to you, it's not going to start out well,
but we're going to get better, and that's what I need.
So there are so many examples of greenwashing. Unfortunately,
it's true.
But we're just going to focus on a few of the big ones, and also I think maybe ask our listeners to share any examples you've come across too, and we can kick off that dialogue.
Yeah, or even if you're listening to this while you're doing your grocery shop, or if walking around, or flicking through a magazine, it would be really interesting to see if you can start to point it out even in, these few minutes we have together in this podcast.
Yeah, for sure. So as kind of hinted at earlier by both of us, brands that use vague product labeling, massive culprit of greenwashing.
Yeah.
So some overused vague buzzwords include eco-friendly, carbon neutral, ethically sourced, biodegradable, ocean-bound plastic, and even just the word natural.
What does that mean? Everything comes from the earth. Nothing on this earth is not from this earth.
A side note, I have such a gripe with that word.
In like natural?
Yeah, in any marketing.
Natural.
Yeah, where they try to say things natural. It's like literally everything is, anyway.
Moving swiftly forward.
Yeah, so without details or transparency on business processes and supply chains, these are really just empty promises. That can also mean a million different things, like we just said. So phrasing like, our packaging is biodegradable. Okay, that's great, but how and where does it actually break down? Because some biodegradable products need industrial composting, which most of us don't have access to.
Yeah, and some things will say home compost only because you can't put them in your FOGO bins or your green bins.
Yeah.
And that's something that recently that's really been irritating me.
Annoying. Yeah. Another phrase like, this product was made with ocean-bound plastic, which I've never heard ocean-bound plastic before, but apparently that's
it's bad when they have to make up a new term to describe how this could possibly potentially be good at a stretch.
Yeah. And so the thing about that phrasing too is that it sounds high tech and like plastic is being pulled from the sea when most of it is honestly really collected near waterways, which is better. But still not what they're actually communicating.
No, not at all.
So not clear. Where are their psi commas?
Well, if they had psi commas, they might actually be making a sustainable product.
That's true.
Or everyone would know that they're not.
Yeah. So there's actually a really good breakdown and guidance on how to spot this sort of form of greenwashing on a social media post that we'll share when the episode comes out. There's a really good line in there that says, if it's all vibes and no receipts, that's a red flag.
Yeah. And even for phrases such as recycled plastic, if there's not a receipt saying recycled from post-consumer plastics or recycled from the ocean plastics, so even if it just says recycled, I learned that recycled plastic can mean it's still in the factory and it's offcuts from their product that they're just going to smush back up and make into a new product. That blew my mind and made me really angry when I found out about that.
Yeah, I remember we had a brief discussion about this, about recycling the other day, and how I always feel confused about what I'm allowed, like what I should be recycling and what I shouldn't be, because even when it has the label on it, I'm like, is it really like recyclable though? Like, yeah.
And there's also a lot of discussion about how big oil, because remember plastics equals fossil fuels, came up with recycling as a way to, again, shift responsibility.
Yes.
And there's a whole bunch of different plastics. And I think it's less than 10% of all plastics have ever been recycled because so many of them can't be. And, you know, they kind of lobby to say like, oh, if we put the recycled logo on it, then we've done our bit. But they don't even check to make sure that can be locally recycled. And I know that I think in the UK it depends on which recycling centres you're near to as to which of the 1 to 7 forms of plastic you can recycle. I think in Australia it's state by state, but I'm pretty sure Canberra can do 5 out of the 7 forms of plastic, but it's not even the ones in order. No. Like it's not even 1 to 5 and we can't do 6 to 7.
And even all of this knowledge that you have, like,
and I'm still confused.
Exactly. And you've done the research for it, but most people, again, not going to know this. Like, and coming back to the thing about shifting the responsibility onto the individual too, it's like, now I'm doing the mental work, trying to sort through what things from my waste can I put into the recycling bin, when it's like, hang on a minute, these corporations should be doing that. Like, why is it our individual responsibility now?
And you know what would make it easier? If when they made the packaging
it was clear.
For the product, they knew how to recycle it from the get-go and made something that could 100% be recycled in the places they're selling it.
Yeah.
And they haven't, a lot of companies have not done that. And then we feel guilty about not knowing which bin to put it in.
Yeah. Not very Solarpunk of them, hey?
Not very Solarpunk, not very cool. It's actually really cringe.
Yeah.
It's actually...
I agree. Let's make it cringe.
Let's make it cringe. Caring for the environment is cool. Yeah. And if you don't care for it, that's cringe. Do better.
It is. It is cringe.
Just do better.
Moving on to another example of what greenwashing can look like. Changing brand and logo colours. So, yeah, I know. For those listening and not watching on video, Ella's just like shaking her head.
Grimacing.
Not having it. So several companies will change to using green colours and or more nature-based imagery like leaves in their branding to appear more environmentally conscious. Because, of course, that colour, that imagery is shorthand for the environment and caring about the environment. So, for example, in 2009, McDonald's, of course.
Oh, they're so good to the environment.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear what this is about.
A fast food company. Wow. So they changed the colour of their European logos from the classic yellow and red to yellow and green.
Oh, not co-opting the Solarpunk colours.
Yeah. The change was to promote a more eco-friendly image and, quote, clarify their responsibility for the preservation of natural resources, which is so vague. Like, what does that even mean?
So you're going to clarify it. Did they clarify it? I doubt it.
No, they didn't actually do anything. Surprise, surprise.
You know, this changing logos really reminds me of the same type of virtue signaling that huge brands and corporations do in moments in time, like Pride Month.
Yeah.
Where they change their logo to be rainbow on social media, and then they still don't change any of their harmful practices or policies. And a lot of companies with the whole DEI now becoming a controversy, crazy.
I know.
Are now not even changing their logos.
So they're just doing like nothing.
They're doing less than nothing.
Yeah.
They're actively harming.
Yeah.
But still wanting a lot of time to capitalize on like queer consumers or people who are allies. The virtue signaling, misleading, deception, hate it.
Again, not very Solarpunk of them.
Not very slay.
Okay, let's talk about another example. The fashion industry.
Okay.
I feel like this is one that probably comes to most people's minds as well, in terms of industries that really capitalize on consumers and like our guilt and all of that. So lots of very big fashion companies will claim to be sustainable when they're in fact not, or taking the bare minimum of action when they could be doing so much more. So labels will often promise recycled materials and schemes like you were saying before, and take back systems. But because of their ever increasing volumes of fashion production, these promises are really hard to keep, often overblown, and sometimes just straight up false.
And they can just do that sometimes, and they will just do that.
Yes. So a case study often talked about is H&M, who've been called out like on several occasions and sued for greenwashing as well on several occasions.
Okay. So they didn't want to change anything? Just
no, apparently not. I guess they thought it would just get better and just not happen again.
Maybe this problem will go away.
We'll just hush it. No, we'll just wait like 10 years and then try again, which is kind of the space in between these two examples, actually.
I hate that.
So in 2013, H&M adopted a series of initiatives, including their H&M Conscious line, which is like the eco line thing you were saying.
It makes me feel like they're waking up and the brand is becoming conscious.
Well, I think that's probably what it's a play on that.
Well, it sounds freaky.
Yeah. And so in that line, they claimed these new products were more eco-friendly. But a place called the Norwegian Consumer Agency found these claims about their environmental credentials to be false and actually illegal.
And did they follow up on that?
I mean, I guess they shut down the line. Yeah. But then more recently...
I hate that you're laughing because this means that they're doing really bad.
I mean, H&M does have a reputation though.
It's true.
So in 2022, only a few years ago.
That's so recent.
The brand was using a scorecard system to inform customers about the environmental soundness of each of their products. But everybody, no surprises here, a report found that more than half of the scorecards portrayed products as being better for the environment than they actually were. And also found some instances where the information they gave was actually just completely opposite from the truth.
So my question is, how do you aim for transparency and then shoot off in the other direction?
It's H&M. I don't know.
Oh, that's so bad.
So I guess don't buy from H&M, everybody.
Or huge grain of salt when you see any of their latest eco-friendly lines or advertising.
And this for sure applies to other like big fashion brands too, because I'm sure I've just used this as an example, but I'm sure some of the other ones are doing very similar things and there's been similar cases. So
yeah. And also I've seen a lot of things while like doing a little bit of research for this where polluting brands and non-sustainable brands such as H&M and a whole bunch of others end up on sustainable fashion lists. And this is another moment just to say, like, be critical of the media you consume.
Yes.
Because sometimes like brands can pay for people to put them on lists like this. And sometimes the lists aren't created by people.
Yep. Yeah, good point.
Yeah. So huge grain of salt, and look for any detail.
Yeah, actually just even anything that's a few sentences more than like eco-friendly.
Which unfortunately is, again, like putting that pressure and that onus back on the consumer, which is unfortunate, and I'm sorry, but we have to do it until we can get these companies to hold themselves accountable. We have to do it.
Yeah. So another place that likes to use greenwashing tactics and is leveraged a lot is in politics.
No way, really?
Who would have thought? It's huge in political campaigns, especially the last like 10 years, I would say, as people are really starting to push for more environmental action. Not so favorite movement, the clean coal movement in politics. Comes to mind.
The irony.
I know, right? It's oxymoron. Like, you cannot put those two words together.
That makes less than zero sense.
So the movement refers to capturing carbon emissions from burning coal and storing them in underground pockets of porous rock. And the idea is to make coal use more quote unquote sustainable by mitigating its negative effects, but still keep using it. So it's very misleading.
I hate all of that.
Yeah. And so in 2017, Australia's then treasurer, Scott Morrison, or Scotty from marketing.
Or ScoMo colloquially.
Yes. Used clean coal as the basis to suggest, I'm not joking everybody, clean energy subsidies be used to build new coal power plants. No, we're not doing that.
And that's so on the nose, but I want to talk about a more subtle one that we see a lot in political campaigns or in company sustainable targets, and they're all a form of greenwashing, is like aiming for carbon neutral rather than zero emissions.
Yes.
So when people are like, oh yeah, we're trying to have zero emissions, we're aiming to be carbon neutral, they've actually changed the whole scale on which we're judging them by. And that can be done, unfortunately, very, very quickly and very, very subtly, like that shift in language, and it changes the scale of the whole conversation, so that it's just about equaling what you have, the damage you have done, rather than lowering the amount of damage you do.
Yeah, which I guess is kind of linked to carbon offsetting.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
You can't, let's think about it. Do we actually think it's a good idea? Do we actually think it's a good idea to say, oh, Isabel Corporation, you can pollute as much as you want as long as you plant an equal amount of trees to the pollution you've done. Yeah. Don't worry about the fact that your pollution has made it worse for those trees to grow in the first place, that you've almost irreversibly damaged the ecosystem. As long as you offset what you've done, you can do it.
And the interesting thing about that too is that it takes longer to make up for it by like planting trees compared to like how quickly the environmental damage is done. So
you could pollute that a lot in a year, and you could say, well, we'll plant trees, and in 20 years that will make up for what I've done this year. But then every year you're still doing that damage.
Yeah, because it's still accumulating.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And unfortunately, that's designed to stop us from using our critical thinking, because we think they're making these bold actions in sustainability, and that's the really scary, irritating part of greenwashing.
Yeah.
And uncool. It's uncool.
Yeah, it is. It's cringe, like you said.
It's cringe, and I will not be caught doing it.
So moving to sort of our last few examples for this section, and focusing, honing in on Solarpunk a little more here.
Towards positivity.
And how there are unfortunately certain Solarpunk aesthetics that can be at risk of greenwashing. I guess you could call it Solarpunk washing. So Solarpunk researcher Adam Flynn, who I think we might have quoted before.
Surely we have.
I feel like in an earlier episode. He argues that depictions like, quote, luxury condos with a green roof that price out existing communities and might end up doing more environmental damage is fake solarpunk urbanism.
Yeah, I think a general rule is if people are greedy and it can shut other people out and it ultimately is a form of capitalism, it's not really solarpunk. It's not radical.
And that sort of thing gives the appearance of sustainability without being truly solarpunk or thinking about community. And if the eco-future depiction doesn't have people or a diverse community in it, it isn't solarpunk.
Facts.
Yeah. Look up our episode on community in solarpunk.
It will be out. And that's one that I would recommend both listening to and watching.
Yes. And also in maybe a step further than greenwashing, brands are now starting to use solarpunk imagery and art styles to depict the future and, of course, appeal to those of us with climate anxiety and using it very clearly as a marketing strategy, but not actually taking action.
Is this where we bring in the Chobani commercial?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure we spoke about it back in season 1 of Cyburst. But in the Solarpunk ecosphere, there is a very, very popular advertisement that was created by Chobani. And this advertisement is one of the clearest visual demonstrations we have of a Solarpunk future. It shows technology, community, and the environment all in harmony, working together. And it turns out to be like a commercial. Like it's a piece of advertising. And it speaks so much to solarpunk people that there are versions of it where people have painstakingly gone through and edited every frame that features Chobani or any of the advertising material out so that you can watch it and use it to dream of a solarpunk future, which is cool and also crazy. And also by making that ad, like, what is Chobani actually selling us? It's the idea, but is it the action?
Yeah.
And it's not the action.
No, because Chobani comes in like plastic, like containers.
So. I wonder if that can even be recycled. Did you know you have to, in a lot of places, scrunch up tin foil into a ball bigger than a golf ball size to recycle it? You can't actually recycle those yogurt lids just on their own. Yep. So above our bin, we have a growing ball of like alfoil, tinfoil that we, we'll wash all the yuck off the top of the Chobani and then we'll scrunch it and we wait until there's enough. There's actually some great memes about how many Easter eggs you need to eat to be sustainable. But like, come on, again, that's on the consumer. And I've actually started seeing some lids that say like scrunch into a ball.
Oh, really?
But not all of them and not enough. But yeah, that's a fun tip for you. Look out if that's something you need to do where you recycle. It's something we need to do here. Fun, not so fun fact.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same.
Okay. Let's talk about, and we kind of touched on this before, let's talk about planting trees. You might think, hey, that's pretty solarpunk. Love that. Can't be anything wrong with planting trees, right?
Oh, no. I don't like where this is going.
So sometimes, and we're going to be talking a little bit, this kind of connects to like the carbon offsetting discussion we're having just before, is that many companies will want to be seen as doing the right thing. And that's where a lot of greenwashing comes from. And they want to say they're giving ABC back to the environment, or they're carbon capturing by planting huge amounts of trees. But it actually depends a lot, unfortunately, about which company they use to plant trees, because normally they're not doing it themselves. Because a lot of the time, these companies double claim trees planted by like one company to offset and another company to offset. And additionally, there's many cases of these trees being planted done poorly, so they're close together. They're non-native species that get wiped out by wildfires or bushfires. And there can be a lot of other problems with them. So yeah, unfortunately, be critical of everything. And if a company is saying they're planting trees to offset, there's a lot of questions we have to ask. And one is, why are you not just being more sustainable in the first place rather than offsetting? And others are, okay, but what trees, where, who's doing them? And how are you protecting that space in the future?
Yeah.
And have you cut down other trees to put those there?
Yeah.
Have you taken land from anyone who's, you know, is living off the land there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So unfortunately, even planting trees on a mass scale can be done really poorly and can hurt the environment more than help.
Yeah. Oh,
so that sucks. Just broadly, we can acknowledge that sucks. And there's a lot of things that seem like they're helping us move more towards a sustainable Solarpunk world that aren't. But here's where the hope comes in. Because this is a Solarpunk podcast.
Let's start to get positive.
And the optimism and the positivity are coming.
Yes.
Because greenwashing is awful. But we can move away from greenwashing. And we are.
Yeah.
In a lot of really, really cool, good, amazing ways. Yeah. So can we talk about that? Part 3, let's bring it back.
Yeah, let's talk about what we're doing to address greenwashing.
Yes.
And not just as individuals, but on like a bigger scale. So regulatory bodies are starting to do a lot about this.
Wow, that's really cool and slay of them.
Yes. Yeah. And it's actually in Australia, greenwashing has been a huge focus the last couple of years for 2 of our largest regulators, which are ACCC, and that's the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission.
Good stuff.
And ASIC, which is Australian Securities and Investments Commission.
Nice.
So they are taking enforcement actions against companies for greenwashing, including issuing infringement notices, commencing federal court proceedings, and seeking corrective disclosures. So greenwashing has very clearly become a key area of focus, and they're really starting to crack down and enforce, which is great.
So needed, so lovely. Thank you, regulators.
Yeah.
Policy can be cool. Regulation can be cool.
And this is like large bodies taking companies to court instead of like an individual complaining about something that's complaining about like a greenwashing, which they're not going to have as nearly as much power.
Or time or energy to devote to
or
it.
money.
Yeah. So
all of the above.
Bodies like this are really important and they're established to do this work. So it's really great to see this happening.
Yeah. So the EU also doing some great work. So the EU is developing a framework for mandatory sustainability reporting, known as the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive.
Wow, what a cool and groovy name.
I know. And the aim of this is to increase transparency, improve corporate accountability, and drive a more sustainable economy. And it's kind of like the mandatory gender pay gap reporting we have in Australia. So it's doing the same similar things here. It's helping counter something called green hushing.
Oh, what's green hushing?
So this is a recent trend that companies have started doing in response to people complaining about greenwashing and them getting called out for it. So now what companies are doing, they're transitioning to less transparency to avoid backlash. This is what green hushing is.
Okay.
And so what they do is they underreport or strategically withhold information about their environmental goals and achievements. So they don't advertise their green credentials, or they even just deliberately remain silent about their stance or commitments to sustainability. And so this framework from the EU is forcing them to
be loud about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think green hushing is that helpful.
No.
Make it the standard. Talk about it loudly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell consumers you care.
Yes.
But I love that the EU is looking on or looking at, amplifying what is currently being hushed.
Yeah.
Those are both really cool examples. And I think it's clear that kind of like the more pressure and expectations and policies that companies and brands and corporations face, the more we can anticipate that their information becomes highly transparent.
Yeah.
And this is an overall trend. So it doesn't matter if there's the EU or the ACC, but overall, with more expectations and pressure, the transparency comes. So right now, some of the better products and in the supermarket on the shelves where you might be going, some of the better products will detail their sustainability practices and their efforts and their ratings. And they should make this easy to find. And sometimes I've seen companies even point out their flaws and where they're trying to do better. Mm-hmm. So remember, it's not greenwashing if it's transparent.
Yeah.
And if it's transparent about how they're trying to be better, then that's something really cool we can look for.
Exactly. If they know that hey, we're not doing so well over here, but we're telling you that we're not doing so well over here and we want to like improve.
Yeah. Way more trustworthy than someone that says organic.
Yeah.
Organic natural ingredients. And another thing you can look for, or that we start to see companies doing of their own accord, because sometimes there isn't policy in place.
Yes.
So we've spoken a lot about greenwashing, but there are really cool companies, brands, organizations trying to do their bit and trying to be better. And a lot of these companies are adopting independent certification, which acts as a different source of credibility away from government legislation. Mm-hmm. So things such as Fair Trade, B Corp, there's a lot of certification out there. Some of them is made up by the company, but when you look for independent, overarching certification standards, there are companies that exist only for other companies to pay them for them to do a rigorous independent assessment to tell the consumer whether it's good or not. Mm-hmm. And Fair Trade has been around for a while, but B Corp is kind of growing, and they're doing a pretty good job of certifying companies on their sustainability and making that really transparent. Mm-hmm. So we need systematic change at both kind of like a government policy level, but also these international certifications that, you know, tell us globally what's what, so that we as consumers don't have to be across individual policies from international companies. That there can be some things that, you know, we trust.
Yeah. Yes.
And we need all of these things to work right now, specifically to pull us out of this greenwashing mess and then into a place where trust and transparency are the norm.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So in that idea, we're kind of like, that's the move away from eco-consumerism and greenwashing. And let's paint a picture about society. It's more Solarpunk. Mm-hmm. And right now, this better, less greenwash society is currently building out of right now ideas from a circular economy. So if we think about reduce, reuse, recycle, circular economies kind of take it one step bigger to a 5-point scale, which is refuse. So that's no, I don't want this product. Is number one action. It's a hierarchy. Number two action is reduce. Okay, yes, I'll have this product, but I'll only take what I need, not this big jumbo pack. Reuse. So find a different, or, you know, use it again if you can. Repurpose. Find a different use for it. And recycle. So refuse, reduce, reuse, repurpose, recycle. And there's a few different variations of that, but they kind of all do the same thing. And having so many steps on that side also kind of mirrors the steps to recycle again. So refusing is the best for a circular economy, but if you can't refuse, you reduce and so on and so on. And then eventually you come to recycle. And in a circular economy, everything you recycle, every single part of that can be recycled and nothing is left out of this economic system.
Yeah.
So in a circular economy, everything that has ever been produced can be reproduced, and it kind of closes the gap where things are going to landfill. And recycling centers have a specific end point, and the end point is the start of the circle. So that's why it's a circular economy.
Yeah. Great. Right. And these steps and initiatives, they don't resolve everything.
No.
But they are helping us make significant progress to move away from greenwashing towards more real sustainability and Solarpunk, and helping transfer responsibility back to corporations rather than individuals.
100%. Because that's where the responsibility really needs to lie right now, and it hasn't been there for a while.
No.
Although in saying that, I want to acknowledge that you might be a very active Solarpunk person and you might be sitting here listening, thinking and saying, wow, that's a lot going wrong. Yeah. There's a lot going right too. But, oh wow, like on a personal level, like I really want to help, but it feels like there's a lot to tackle. And that's okay. There is a lot to tackle. And we do have a few tips if you want to not get got by greenwashing. But this should be in conjunction with all of these great movements towards a more Solarpunk future on a bigger international corporation, government level as well. But I've actually got 4 points here, not 3. So,
okay. Bonus fourth one.
Yeah, bonus fourth one. The first one is that if you're like, wow, I really want to help as an individual, our first top tip is strive for change, not perfection.
Yeah.
Any steps you do, including thinking about it. If you are taking the time to listen to this episode, to think about, oh, wow, like I wonder about blah, you are already being helpful. You thinking, doing some of the mental capacity, that is already good. You do not have to be perfect to make a difference. Any step is a step. And I think it's really hard to remember that sometimes.
Yes.
Okay, that's number 1. Number 2 is buy what you need, refuse what you don't, because there's a reason that it's reduce before reuse and recycle. It's a hierarchy. So sometimes the biggest action is kind of inaction, and the inaction can be, the action can be saying no.
Yeah.
That's pretty radical and pretty cool too. Our third top tip is to avoid getting overwhelmed, because like Isabel's mentioned, we feel a lot of climate anxiety and pressure, and that can be really paralyzing. So to avoid getting overwhelmed, if you want to take an active step against greenwashing and supporting companies who greenwash, pick one item or thing at a time to research. So that might be like researching online. It might be reading all the packaging of, say, like dish soaps at the store. So don't try and do everything at once. Pick one thing, make one pointed choice at a time to help reduce overwhelm. And that one choice does make a difference, which is number 4. And number 4 is remember that any choice makes a difference. But the most difference comes from transferring that responsibility back to corporations. Yeah. So it's truly, truly amazing that in Unilever products, to purchase, use and recycle, you as the consumer control 70% of their greenhouse footprint for that product. 70%.
That's very high.
That's really high. But I would like to ask, why aren't all of their products the most best for the environment? Why does so much of that sit with you? Why are they choosing to unnecessarily contribute to climate change? So you're doing a lot of good, and you protect yourself. It's rough. It's rough out there. We can get to a more Solarpunk world. But at the end of the day, like Isabel kind of concluded before, it's all about putting it back where the actual responsibility lies too. Fight the system.
Indeed, fight the system. Wow, that was a really good way of wrapping up that section and like the main bits of content here, I think.
Oh, that was so good. Should we make it even better and head to our good news section?
Let's do that. Do you want to go first, Ella?
I do.
I think this ordering makes more sense if you go first than me.
I would love to go first because I know Isabel's planned her bit off my bit and to like tie in really well. And I'm very excited about that. So, good news, everybody. A new bill passed in France with a vote of 337 to 1, and it's an anti-fast fashion bill. It's the first bill of this scale, and it's passed and anticipated to be finalised in September.
Look at that, 337. Who was the one person who said no?
I don't know.
Who?
But I'm judging them significantly right now. That's cringe.
That's really embarrassing for them.
That's so embarrassing for them. Imagine being that person. Okay, anti-fast fashion bill. What does it mean? What are the benefits? How good is this good news? It's very good. So this bill is going to bring in requirements for companies to be more explicit about their eco-impact and labeling every single garment. So fast fashion brands are required to give greater transparency on their materials, as well as their end-of-life guidance for their produced items. So in my head, with the framing of this episode, I'm thinking about it as like an anti-greenwashing bill.
Yeah.
It's focusing so much on transparency and action at the same time. So there are heaps of requirements from this bill for fast fashion companies to inform their customers and consumers of both the environmental and the social cost of this current level of consumption. And this is in hope that this bill will give additional help in mitigating over-consumerism, because it's such a huge problem right now. Also, as part of this bill, there will be no more adverts for fast fashion in France.
Wow. That's a lot of brands too.
That's a lot of brands, and it also includes restrictions on online ads by influencers. So it's not just traditional advertising, it's new wave as well.
Yeah. So this sponsorships.
Yeah. Right? So this is really overarching this bill. It's pretty cool. There's a scale from ultra fast fashion, including classic fast fashion, and there are different penalties depending on how much fast fashion you produce. So the biggest contributors will be penalized the most, and then down and down and down. And some of these penalties include that each item of fast fashion will include an extra fee per garment.
Right.
So this year, that extra fee is going to be about €5 per product, which current exchange rates is about $9 Australian. And that is set to double in the next 5 years if these companies continue to not meet greener standards.
Damn.
So that's really good, because a lot of the drive for people to go to fast fashion consumption is the price. So this is going to be significantly impacting that price, which is cool.
Yeah.
And overall, this anti-fast fashion bill by France is a really great step towards slower consumption, in highlighting the ongoing cost of cheap fast fashion. I think that's something that we are quite dissociated from, and it's bringing that kind of into the forefront.
Yeah.
And it's also a great step in heading towards a more circular model of production. And I'm really hoping we're going to see a snowball effect from here across the globe. Hopefully the EU will follow. It'll eventually come to Australia, to a whole bunch of other countries across the world.
Yeah.
And we'll start to see better regulation for the things that are really costing our planet.
Yeah. That's great. I really hope the snowball effect happens. And I feel like it will. If this is like successful in the next like year or so in France, then yeah, for sure. I think other countries will adopt it. Oh,
there's got to be one to start, and thank you, France, for being that starter.
Yeah. Yeah. So my good news story is linked to this whole thing about fast fashion. So every year, the average Australian throws out around 11 kilograms of clothing, which is really upsetting. But what if some of it could be composted?
Ooh, go on.
So enter paper clothing. A practice that might be part of the solution to fast fashion. And there was a lovely ABC article that came out about this in May about Australian designers taking it up.
Okay, go off Australia.
Yeah, so paper clothing is usually made with Japanese washi paper, made from the bark of mulberry trees. So this is my favorite part about it. It's actually been around for centuries, but died out because of, guess what? Industrialization. And is now only practiced by a few designers. It started in China and spread through Asia to Japan around the 9th century. And in the West, paper clothing gained popularity during times of scarcity, like in post-war Germany when there were wool and other resource shortages. And it was also briefly taken up by celebrities like Andy Warhol in the 1960s. And now it's starting to make a comeback.
Okay.
So it's appearing again on catwalks during eco-fashion events, and now selling out at fashion workshops where people are learning how to do it. So Melbourne-based designer and academic Jake Nakashima Edwards says, quote, "It was first worn in Japan by Buddhist monks who were kind of recycling or rewearing the paper materials they were using to practice a calligraphy for Buddhist sutras. It's really, really different from the kinds of paper that you and I would interact with every day, like copy paper or printing paper. It's very, very strong, very durable, and was often coated with oils and starches that would increase that strength and durability or add water resistant or waterproof properties."
Okay, but still not coating it in plastic. Like, that's still pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we very much have this cultural idea, especially in the West, that paper is a delicate thing that we can't wear because it's going to break and tear and all of that. When it's prepared in the right way, it's actually very versatile. So another Australian designer who's been creating paper clothing, her name is Anzara Clark, says, quote, "I think in the West, we see paper as something that's fragile, that we wrap things in and we write on. I've got a paper vest that I made as a prototype last year and I've worn it 60 times and it's still in fantastic condition. Traditionally, in Japan, with certain processes, they made armor out of paper as well."
Okay, but 60 wears is significantly more than the estimations for how much a garment of fast fashion is worn.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly.
That's great.
Yeah, and they also look really interesting too, like paper fashion, because it's quite,
I just want to
striking.
Touch it.
So this is not a silver bullet because creating paper clothing is very labor intensive and therefore more expensive because it takes more time. And because of that, it's also more exclusive because there's not as much of it in production.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But it does provide a more sustainable alternative for both its materials and for encouraging slow fashion. So I'm really interested to see where it goes and if this takes off.
Wow, that's a great complimentary news story, and that definitely makes me feel a lot more positive about some of the other options, because there are other options out there. Mm-hmm. And that's really cool. What a good conclusion to that segment.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's time for some questions for our audience.
Yes. Oh, yes. I would love to ask our audience some questions. Mm-hmm. The first one is, where have you seen examples of greenwashing in your everyday? Mm-hmm. So as you've been listening to this episode, what's been coming up for you? Have you been thinking about certain products in particular? Let us know what they are.
Yeah. How does it present? Is it like the nature imagery, using green colors, or is it the vague labeling? And is this greenwashing easy to spot or not so easy?
Yeah. And if it's really easy for you to spot, if you're a pro, because there might be some pros listening and watching. Yeah. If you're a pro, let us know how you know what your go-to guide is for deciphering and getting through this greenwash crap.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let us know on our socials at @sci_best or via our Gmail. And as always, everybody, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.
And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.